Monday, May 12th, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our board meeting. And then a special recognition, I don't know if you could say belated, but those mothers in our here at the district, and want to wish you a very happy Mother's Day as well. Thank you. Prior to getting started, there is one reportable action that I'd like to read. Over the last month, board members were given the opportunity to review Dr. Calvin's 17-page self-evaluation and submit their own evaluation, which ours was like 13 pages, but I think after comments, like 15 pages. I'm very proud to say the College of Sequoias stands on a strong foundation built through effective leadership, fiscal prudence, and a commitment to student success. Moving forward, focused attention by Dr. Calvin and his team on these key areas will ensure continued growth and excellence. The board agreed 4-0 in closed session to provide another positive evaluation of Dr. Calvin and his leadership of the College of Sequoias. This triggers Article 1 of the employment contract between the district and Dr. Calvin and extends the term of the contract through June 30th, 2029. Thank you. With that, I'd like to ask Trustee Sherman to lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Moving on to public comment. Per Board Policy 2350, any person may address the board at this time either on an agenda item or other matters of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker, with the maximum time of 15 minutes per item, unless otherwise extended by the board. At this time, I'd like to invite anyone who wishes to make public comment concerning items on the agenda. No one? I'd like to invite anyone who would like to make public comments concerning items not on the agenda. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. This is not the place I want to be because I do not like talking in front of people. All right, you guys know who I am. I'm the guy you guys call for help. When your computer's not working, when things are down, you call us. We need help. We need help now. Like I said, I'm not very good, so I've got it written down. I'll just read it to you. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Calvin, everybody else here, everybody who came to the meeting here. Thank you for the opportunity to address a critical operational issue that needs to increase staffing for our excuse me, again, I'm not good at this, our IT team. Excuse me. Ensure custodial and ground staff align with industry standards and tie future staffing to growth metrics for sustainable operations. I'll also highlight the financial rationale for this investment, demonstrating how it supports our long-term fiscal health. Let's start with our IT team. We currently have 3 staff members managing computer repairs, software updates, office moves, help desk support, and unboxing, programming, and placement of all new systems, along with other duties. Pre-COVID, we supported approximately 2,500 systems with 4 staff members here on the Visalia campus. Those 6 would have been optimal. Now, with 6,000 to 8,000, depending on how you weight iPads and Chromebooks, because it takes less to manage those. Between 6,000 to 8,000 systems, we have 3 people on campus right now, because we've had an opening for a few years now. Excuse me. So with the staffing we have now, we handle currently 2,000 to 2,600 devices per tech. Tasks like unboxing, programming, and placing new systems may seem minor individually, but they accumulate significantly, adding hours to already overstretched workloads. It's not a lot of work. It's not hard work, but it takes time. We do 200 computers in the summer for a lab. That's a lot of time. For multiple labs, I'm sorry, we don't do 200 in a lab. Industry benchmarks, such as those from discussions on educational IT, recommend 400 to 600 devices per staff member. For our current workload, this suggests we need from 10 to 20. And I know that's astronomical thing. That's in the wind. It just shows the deficit we're working in now. With only 3, we risk delays in support, reduced productivity, and staff burnout, which could undermine our ability to deliver reliable technology services critical to academic and administrative functions. We've, over the last 8 months, have been down to mainly 2 people on campus because I was out for an injury, and then we had other people that had to take time off. So at any given time, we were stuck with 2 people on campus over this last 8 months. In our role, not IT itself, but in our role. Our custodial and ground staff face similar pressures. While exact staffing numbers aren't available, their workloads have grown, with campus expansions. They ensure a clean, safe, and well-maintained campus, essential for operational efficiency, student satisfaction, and positive institutional image. Current staffing may fall short of these goals, potentially compromising service quality as our facilities expand. From a financial standpoint, increasing staffing is not just an expense. It's a strategic investment with measurable results. For IT, understaffing leads to delayed support, which disrupts faculty's teaching, student learning, and administrative operations. These disruptions can result in lost productivity, estimated by industry studies like those from Gartner to cost organizations $1,000 to $2,500 per employee annually in downtime. With approximately 500 employees, this could translate to $500,000 to $1.25 million in hidden costs yearly. Additionally, staff burnout increases turnover, staff turnover with replacement costs averaging 20 to 50% of the IT staff member's salary. Let's see. I'm sorry, I lost my place. Hiring additional IT staff to reach the 10 to 20 could cost $350,000 to $850,000 annually. But this is offset by reducing downtime, turnovers, costs, potentially saving hundreds of thousands annually. Again, 10 to 20 pie in the sky. Just the numbers. For custodial and ground staff, inadequate staffing risks deferred maintenance and subpar campus conditions, which can defer prospective students. With enrollment tied to funding via California's centered funding formula, even 1% drop in enrollment, roughly 128 FTES, could reduce revenue by approximately $800,000 annually, based on current funding rates. A clean, well-maintained campus supports recruitment and retention, directly impacting our budget. Moreover, neglected maintenance can lead to costly repairs. The APPA notes that deferred maintenance costs escalate 3 to 5 times higher than timely upkeep, potentially adding millions in future liabilities. Excuse me. Only a short bit more.
Give you one more minute.
All right. In summary, next year there's going to be a report put out. The Chancellor's office has already been working with it. They had been looking at this kind of thing. What I was looking at, and I didn't even get to it, I'm sorry. All right. To ensure long-term sustainability, I propose tying staff to growing metrics with growth metrics such as student enrollment, system counts, and facility size. We're supposed to be growing to 2,800 or 12,800 full-time equivalent students by 2050 with corresponding infrastructure increases. We need to try to tie staffing in certain areas at least to the size of the area, grounds, number of rooms, square footage, types of cleaning that needs to be done for facilities. IT, we need to try to tie it closer to the number of components, the number of things we have to fix. Because otherwise we're always going to be trying to play catch up.
Can I have your last name?
Moloff, I'm sorry, Jeremy Moloff.
Mr. Moloff?
Yes.
I want to thank you for coming up here and sharing your thoughts. We do have to continue with the meeting, but thank you very much for sharing. And if you'd like to email it to us for more, to get the full scope, I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Moving to board and well, actually, I'm sorry. Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment concerning items not on the agenda? No? Okay, we will move on to board and executive staff reports. We have Mr. Shirk, student trustee report.
First off, as I believe this to be my last meeting here before the next trustee comes in, I just wanted to say thank you to the Board of Trustees for being so welcoming and accepting, as well as everybody here for giving me the opportunity to hopefully be a good representative for our student body. So thank everyone. For Hanford highlights, on Tuesday, May 6th, the COS Hanford campus hosted its final student activities event of the year, the Last Fiesta. Students enjoyed a variety of relaxing activities, free ice cream, and the opportunity to decorate graduation caps. On April 24th and 25th, COS Hanford campus participated in the district-wide STEPS priority registration event for high school seniors. COS Hanford had 240 students RSVP for the event, contributing to a successful district-wide total of over 1,400 students registered for the fall 2025 term. COS Hanford is coordinating the upcoming Fire Academy graduation for Cadet Class 2143, which is comprised of 32 cadets. The ceremony is scheduled for Friday, May 30th at the COS Visalia Theater. Paramedic Cohort 1 plans are underway to honor the 10 students completing COS's first paramedic cohort. The cohort will conclude in June, marking a significant milestone for the program and the college. Module 1 of the COS Police Academy began on April 15th, bringing in 16 new students from various other academies. This brings the total number of cadets in the current class to 59. The Police Academy graduation will take place on Thursday, July 17th in Hanford. COS Police Academy will also host a meet and greet on Friday, July 11th. This event provides prospective students with information about the academy and the application process. Moving on to Tulare, on May 7th, COS Tulare held their last student engagement event for the semester, which was Finals De-Stress Fest. Students enjoyed ice cream sundaes, painting on horses, potting plants, and mental health resources from the COS Health Center. On May 8th, the annual Ag Banquet was held for graduating Ag students with a dinner and an award ceremony to celebrate their accomplishments in the department and at COS. And moving on to Visalia, student senate elections occurred on April 23rd and 24th and elected 7 new officers for the 2025 to 2026 year. Congratulations to them. COS Theater Department offered performances of The Importance of Being Earnest with multiple sold-out shows. In the same vein as performances, our choir and band offered multiple performances in the COS Theater and St. Mary's Catholic Church. Moving on to athletics, the COS track team, the men's track team won the NorCal title and sent 22 athletes to state. The swim team, 4 athletes won medals at the state meet. For softball, we had a co-win CVC conference with 5 All-State and All-Northern athlete honors. And in baseball, our coach, Coach Jody Allen, retires after 35 years at the helm. So congratulations. And that's all for me.
Questions for Trustee Shirk or student trustee Shirk? No?
Well, maybe it's a nice time for me to just come out of order a little bit and recognize Toby for an amazing run as our student trustee. You jumped in
And really do appreciate your efforts all year long. You've been very, very dependable and added quite a bit to our meetings. Thank you so much, Toby. We have a small token of our appreciation here for you. Thank you, Toby. Very much.
Yes, thank you very much for the time you've dedicated to this board and to our students.
Sorry if I went out of order and disrupted.
Not at all, not at all.
Perfect.
Next, board member reports, trustee Sherman.
Just a report, I played in the COS golf tournament to benefit the athletic program, and we raised more money this past year than we ever have. I believe the number was over $35,000 net that'll go to the athletic program. So, and I enjoyed the tournament.
Thank you for your help. Excellent. Trustee Nunes.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank Toby for his 10 years. It seems like yesterday.
Really went fast.
You covered some things in your report that typically we don't see covered, so appreciate all that. Just like to say that I also played in the Presidential Cup golf tournament, although what I didn't do is buy a winning team like Greg did. He knew his shortcomings at golf he'd have to do some special stuff. So,
I'm really good at recruiting good people, okay?
I did attend, for the first time ever, as much of a sports enthusiast as I am, I attended a softball game for the first time a couple of weekends ago and thoroughly enjoyed it. Some wonderful young athletes on the team. The end result wasn't what we all wanted, but it was a good season nonetheless. Thank you.
Trustee Lane.
I don't have really anything to add.
Okay.
It's already been said, other than just to echo the thanks.
Very good.
Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd like to share a few items that I had the pleasure of attending. I wanted to say it was a busy May, but for those that work at COS, busy is an understatement, because I'm going to read off a couple things, but I know people in this room were in many more items. But I did attend the presentation of Dr. Calvin at Rossi High School, and always appreciate the opportunity to connect with their boards to let them know how their students are doing here at COS. I attended Scholarship Night. It was wonderful to see all the amazing students that are being recognized, but just the tremendous amount of support COS and its donors give to our students to continue their higher education. That was a joy to witness. I attended the Nuestro Futuro ceremony, an opportunity, of course, to inspire students and giving them an opportunity to be encouraged or just have their family support. They bring up their family members to the podium or to the stage, and I think it's an opportunity just to make it a little more personable for their accomplishment of graduating. I also attended the HBCU ceremony. That was really fun. I enjoyed it. Great people, great music, just a wonderful time spent with, again, family and their students. Also attended, I don't think it's called a community partner breakfast, but I was sitting at the community partners table, but there's a recognition event, breakfast for community members and businesses that
Employee recognition breakfast.
Yes. What I appreciated the most about that event was not only a great breakfast, but the opportunity to get feedback from our community, really asking them what can we do better, what do we need to do to stay ahead, and then thanking them for their support and appreciation, that they give to the support they give to give our students more opportunities for education. I also attended the COS MESA recognition event. Very happy to see many students continue on into that field, engineers and health, and so again, got the opportunity to see where our students are heading in the future as well. And then tomorrow night we'll be in Farmersville.
That's right.
We'll be at the school board meeting. Again, opportunity for Dr. Calvin to present not only the great things that are happening here at COS for the students that are coming in the fall, but again, recognizing the achievements of the students that went to Farmersville High School. So it's been a great month, and the next week we have graduation, so very excited about that as well. It's my favorite part of the year, and I just wanted to share that quick update. Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Foster for the foundation report.
Good evening, trustees and Dr. Calvin. First, I'd just like to thank Trustee Sherman for participating in the golf tournament, Trustee Nunes for participating as well in the golf tournament, and Trustee Sherman and his team did come in the money, but both first and second place do get a cash prize for their team, and I'd like to report that both teams donated back the winnings, and so that always helps the students, and it just reminds everybody that why we were out there doing what we do. It's to raise money for the students, so we appreciate that. And the foundation exists exclusively to support the college and support the students, and scholarship night really exemplifies both of those things, because certainly we are celebrating the transfer of wealth from our donors to our students. But many of those students make decisions about whether they enroll at COS or stay enrolled at COS or continue to do as many units as they do at COS because of those scholarships. And so I think that benefits the college as well. This year, we had about 300 people at the scholarship night, but that is just a representation of all the donors and students that are experiencing that transfer of wealth. We had about $617,300 awarded this cycle, the 25-26 cycle, 506 awards. That does make out to be a few $1,000s less than last year in total award value, although some more can come in over the course of the time. But as we sit here today, that's the number I'm sticking with. But we did have about 20 more awards awarded this year over last year. So we're still right in that pocket. It's important to mention to you, and certainly to my board, what motivates us is about a third of the students that applied for a scholarship received an award. And so they're the ones that received that $617,000. So understanding that means that 2/3 of that number could have been used to make sure everybody got an equal amount or a comparable amount of support. They did go through the effort of articulating their need, and we just weren't able to satisfy it to that degree. So we need another $1.2 million a year to make that happen. So that's what drives us to keep looking for new scholarship donors and recruit more resources for that end. And so we'll keep continuing to do that.
Any questions for Mr. Foster? I have a comment, but any questions for Mr. Foster?
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
The comment I wanted to make is it made me think about high school when I went through scholarship night, and while the money that came in was wonderful, but I think what I really appreciate, and I think it's probably known by the student, is while the money is great, it's also shares that someone believes in them. That's a committee or a person said, I read this story, this person stood out, and I want to make sure that they continue on. And I think for me, when I was in high school, I really appreciate the money, but I felt like people were looking, for me to be successful, and I wanted to be more, just as successful as they thought I was going to be based on them selecting me as their recipient. So I hope that the students benefit from the money, but also are inspired to continue to work hard. So thank you for all the efforts to connect the donors with the students that night.
Thank you very much. I do receive thank you notes myself, just as a representative. There's no one to send it to, and so I get them. And that sentiment is repeated many times in those thank you notes. Just the idea that someone who doesn't know me is willing to invest in my future. And it usually ends with some sentiment of, I hope I get to do that someday. And that's certainly the point for us to put them in connection with the donors so that they kind of get a sense of what's motivating them to do what they did for them, so that they might choose to be on that path later when they can. So I appreciate it. I'm going to go celebrate my wife's birthday now,
Oh,
okay?
yes, of course. All right. Have a good evening. Dr. Lucerna, please share with us the accreditation report.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. The accreditation work group met last week, and we're reviewing the core inquiries that I shared with you at the last meeting and preparing our responses over the summer for that. Those are due September 1st. And you're going to hear a little bit more about the regular substantive interaction when we do our distance education report, but we're still working on that as well with the faculty. 2 updates from the ACCJC. One is that the open session is June 4th at 1:15 in Sacramento or via Zoom if anyone's interested in attending the open session of the ACCJC. And then the ACCJC also had a regional convening in Lemoore, and Dr. Calvin, Vice President Morrison, Dean Francisco Banuelos, Dr. Sarah Harris, and our articulation officer, Mai Her, all attended that event. I was unable to attend, but Dr. Calvin can fill you in on anything else that came up that day. I understand it went really well. It was an opportunity for us to give a lot of feedback and input to the ACCJC on our experiences. That is my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Superintendent President's report, Dr. Calvin.
Thank you, President Macareno. That was a great event out in Lemoore College. And it has been a busy May. By my calendar's noting, I think we had about 32 events in the last 4 weeks, with still more to come. And I just want to commend everyone that puts on these events. It's a lot of work. Tim left, but I would have commended him as well, because even though the foundation isn't directly tied to that many of these programs, everything that kind of happens in the Porter Fieldhouse over about a 10-day stretch, once we get it all dressed up with a stage and pipe and drape and so forth, he tries to kind of help with the audio visual and making sure that Nels and Aaron are there to get things going, or Tommy Lou or whatever. And it just really helps for us to put on a really good show, regardless of which of our groups is celebrating. So thank you to Tim and kind of everybody in those programs that puts on a really good show. One of those events was our giant awards luncheon put on by PACE. That occurred last Thursday, where we honored Mai Her as our giant award for faculty, Mike Cromer for part-time faculty, Elvia Rangel Lemas for classified staff, Dolly Ozturk for the management, and then Vince Sola was our community member. I think we ended up serving over 1,000 tacos, so that's a pretty good metric, and it was great. The theme was the play and movie Wicked, and Pace just did a fabulous job. And I had a lot of fun. I think everybody did. It's just a nice way to kind of conclude our year to have that. So thank you to Pace on a job well done. We do have graduation next Thursday, the 22nd. I was sharing with the board earlier, we've got over 600 graduates in the 5 o'clock and 600 graduates in the 8 o'clock session. Over 1,200 graduates have chosen to walk, which is by far a high watermark in our history. So we'll have 2 full Mineral King Bowls next Thursday. And the end is not in sight, because even with the year we've had, our enrollment is looking even higher for next year. Now, obviously, there's a balance to that. We only get paid through about 10,500 FTES, so we need to balance community demand and community need with our ability to provide those classes. But I would say it's a nice problem to have, because there are plenty of colleges out there that are struggling with enrollment and relying on every form of dual enrollment they can get their hands on in order to come close to their funding level. We certainly do our share of dual enrollment as well, but we're not getting nearly as creative, I'll say creative, in trying to meet their funding mechanisms as us. We have plenty in our conventional college funding to reach our funding threshold. So exciting times ahead. And then I also just wanted to commend the folks that put that golf tournament together. Trustee Sherman was on the committee, and raising money is great. It's awesome. But we also raised a lot of friends. People in our community that wouldn't necessarily have a lot of contact with the college will come and play golf for a day. They were able to meet probably close to 200 of our students between our dance team, our cheer squad, our sports medicine trainers, and probably close to 140, 150 of our student athletes that were there to kick things off. And then most of our coaches and administrative staff from athletics. It was just nice to have that kind of show put on for our community in addition to the money that was raised. So thank you to everyone there. And looking forward to the next couple of weeks. We've got several more fun events this week and next. And then we'll culminate everything in the two ceremonies next Thursday night. So looking forward to seeing everyone there. End of report.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President?
Yes.
This president.
Oh, this president.
I was just reminded, you reminded me of something that I needed to mention, and I forgot during my comments, and that is about the student athletes that attended the golf tournament and did kind of some work duty at various holes. And I made a point to talk to a bunch of them. And what a great group of young people that we have here on campus. Without exception, they were all so polite and positive about their experiences here at the college. And so, you know, I was proud of them and proud of the department for the job that they do with a lot.
I think 17 of our 18 teams made the postseason, and almost 600 student athletes combined for a GPA over 3.1. Pretty impressive.
For sharing, Trustee Nunes. Moving on to reports, Dr. Arzola, I don't see him in our company, so. Costa President's Report, Ms. Redden. Don't see her as well. CSEA President's Report Update, Ms. King.
It's all falling on you, Katie.
Bring it home.
Thank you for being here.
Good evening. I wanted to start off thanking everyone that was able to attend the PACE end of year awards luncheon. We had a record number of people out there. The weather didn't hurt us as bad as it did last year. We had more shade than we did last year, so that was very nice. Thank you, President Calvin, for always supplying the amazing amount of tacos. It's crazy how many tacos we can go through. So it was a good time. It's always nice to just kind of take off our work hats for a second and enjoy each other. I also wanted to share that it's not our group, but COSTA's parent union, the California Teachers Association, is hosting a statewide event this Saturday in support of education schools and the Department of Education. I know our CSEA chapter is planning on having people go together, and we'd like to encourage anyone, union member or not, that wishes to show their support for keeping schools and education funded to join us this Saturday, May 17th at 11 a.m. at the Civic Center Park in downtown Hanford. If you want more information on the event, you can Google CTA Fight for Schools, and you'll find all the information you need there. Additionally, CSEA has our monthly classified staffing report. Things are looking pretty good. Internal hiring rate, just under 30%. External hiring rate, 71%. Our average job vacancy is down to 76 days, so that's just a little over 2 months of vacancy. It's down considerably. Also, in our total current vacant positions is 9, which is pretty standard for us. A couple of staffing concerns. Ironically, I did not know that Jeremy was going to give that presentation before I prepared my report. But I did have a note on here to mention that I'd previously spoken about a microcomputer specialist position on our campus that has been vacant for 274 days. It's about 8 months. In a classification that's already severely understaffed to manage the number of machines in the district. This vacancy is putting a strain on the department employees, as you saw. Lack of movement on this position has created space for rumors around the reasoning and has lowered morale for staff that are feeling unsupported and unappreciated by management or upper management, given that their immediate supervisors seem to want to help. Staff have expressed that they feel the upper management is quick to thank them for their assistance and assure them that there's no rush to get to tickets, but they feel that it amounts to lip service because there is no action ever actually taken to alleviate the issue, which is unfortunately creating tension and hard feelings. There is an account clerk position in the cashier's office on the Visalia campus that's been vacant for 726 days. That's 2 years this month. We did hire someone for that role and then immediately moved them to another position and never reflew or filled that position. So for about 2 years, the cashier's office has been without that additional staff person. Lastly, there is a college nurse vacancy that has been open for 122 days on the Visalia campus. The immediate supervisor actually would have already had someone in place, or at least be in the process of their backgrounds. However, it appears the dean over the position has interceded in the hiring process and overrode the hiring chair's decision despite classified hiring procedures policy and insisted on second interviews against the hiring chair's wishes. This, in addition to CSEA recently discovering that an undisclosed step in the classified hiring procedures includes running the final decision of the hiring chair through senior management, or this is in addition to that, I'm sorry. CSEA was advised that this is meant to be included as part of the final reference checks to be conducted by the hiring chair. However, the language does not imply that to any layperson reading the procedures and would not fit any definition of reference check anyone on our team had heard. CSEA requested for this step to be removed due to lack of transparency, but we're told that is not possible. And that is the end of my report, if anyone has any questions.
Thank you for your report. Next, I'd like to invite Ms. Alberti for COSAFA President's Report update. I don't see her. Okay. Moving on to item 8, Information Annual Report on Distance Education, Ms. Baker.
Hello. It's been a year since I've addressed you. I'm not going to steal this time. I walked off with it last year. It's my one promise to myself. I'm going to leave it this time.
Well, there's a tracker on it.
Yeah, I know. You're not going to let me get very far. Okay. So I'm Elise Baker. I am concluding my second year as a tenure track faculty in the role of distance education for COS. So it's been a really busy second year for me. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and it's been a really interesting time to come into this role and to come into a role as full-time faculty. But I tell my supervisor all the time I'm like really grateful for it because it kind of like dropped me in the deep end and reminded me I could swim. And so I'm like watching the change happen at COS, and I'm loving it. I really like my job here even when it's really hard. So I'm going to share with you today some data on COS course offerings divided along instructional modalities, data on our success rates by modality also. We'll do a comparison of face-to-face, online, and hybrid success rates. I will cover our work towards accreditation preparedness and then our response to core inquiries into the area of distance education. And then finally, I'll cover some changes to our online teaching training programs that have been brought about by changes to the COSTA and the COSAFA collective bargaining agreements that were ratified in October. So I'm going to give you some numbers, and then we're actually going to visualize this data because I'm a visual person, and so I think other people in the room might be the same. So we're starting in 2020 when we're looking at this, and what we're looking at in our 3 columns is our face-to-face number of course sections, online and hybrid, moving from left to right. So a couple of things I want to draw your attention to. is that starting in 2020, we can observe the shifts in instructional modality during and since the COVID-19 emergency circumstances. So we can see if we look in the first row, 2020 to 2021, that we were at about 53% distance education courses and 47% face-to-face. So that was, of course, because of the emergency circumstances. We couldn't safely be in person, and it was totally unprecedented for an in-person campus like ours to have more than half of our instruction happening in the online space. So as the pandemic kind of got further in the rearview mirror, a leveling started to occur. And we saw face-to-face become more than half of our become more than half of our offerings again as early as 2021. At the time, I was working at a series of other campuses, and there are a few campuses that bounced back to offering that much face-to-face instruction as quickly as COS did. So that's really commendable. Since then, the number of online courses has continued to increase as our distance ed courses decrease. And in the 2 years that I've been here, we've been holding pretty steady at 3/4 of our courses being face-to-face and 1/4 of our courses being distance ed. So either fully online or hybrid modality. So the next chart that we're looking at is success rates by modality. The pandemic years had pretty inflated success rates system-wide all over the state. We had a lot of inflated success rates, and COS was the same. Again, though, once we start putting months and years between us and the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw a correction where success rates in face-to-face courses stabilized at around, looking at 2021 onward, between 73 and 74%. We're holding pretty steady there, but you'll notice that when we jumped from 2020 to 2021, we took like a 10% dip in success rates from our online courses across the board. So since then, however, online learning has been kind of on an upward success trend, which I think is suggesting growing student and faculty familiarity and adaptation to digital modalities. I'd like to also think it's due to increased support for distance ed and all the work that I'm doing in that area. So maybe that's just me. I like to think that it is. It makes me feel better. So that is our data. So what I want to do is give you kind of a visualization of this. So the tallest column in each of these areas is our total course offerings. And the part that's darkened in is our success rates. So we can see, like our blue section, for example, is our face-to-face classes, and we were at a little bit of a dip, and we've increased, and our success rates are kind of gradually increasing as well, at the same time that our DE sections are starting to decrease, but our success rates are becoming more of the total bar, right? So our goal here is to have all of these bars filled in. We want as many of our students to be successful in online courses as possible, and I think this data visualizes that we're gradually, sustainably starting to get there. Okay, then we get to talk about accreditation, which has been a major part of my work since getting here. We did a lot to prepare for the ACC-JC Distance Education Review. Most notably, we ran a peer-to-peer review process that checked our online courses for the standards that we knew were going to be part of that review. And we were able to reach 75% of our fall online faculty, which is pretty good considering this was a voluntary process. To have had 75% of our fall faculty participate in the review, I think is pretty commendable. There were a series of other workshops. There were some informational materials, an email series. We did a mock audit. There were some other efforts that gathered data going into the review and to kind of direct our support of faculty accordingly. But as we know, we had a bit of a shortfall in the review, and so we are now in the process of responding to that. So where are we now? You've seen the MOUs with the districts, which create our process for how we're responding to this. So the first step of that process agreed upon by our unions in the district was that we were going to do a peer-to-peer faculty RSI check, and every faculty member who teaches online was going to have one course checked. That check is done, and the final result was that we are at 66% compliance campus-wide. That is short of where we need to be. We need to be at 85% in order to pass this area. So we have a ways to go, but I will tell you that I am now at the stage of running the 2-hour RSI course, that anyone who didn't pass that review, so the 44% of faculty, or I'm sorry, the 66% of 44. You're right, the 44% that didn't pass had 44. 34, okay, you're right. 34%.
public math.
I really hate it. It just puts me on the spot. Okay, so everyone who didn't pass is now taking the RSI course, and I'm seeing a lot of changes being made to their courses that I'm hopeful that when we do the second check, which is just in a couple of weeks, May 29th, we're doing it. I think that gap is going to be smaller and smaller. That's my hope.
To that point, so
Yeah.
I don't forget. Did I misread that process is completed, but not everybody participated? Or did I get that wrong?
That might be wrong.
I thought, because I think you just said that you just completed the process, led me to believe that everybody got one.
Oh, I see. So the previous peer-to-peer voluntary process, we only had 75% of faculty participate. So this process wasn't voluntary. Everyone who taught online had to have one course reviewed.
Okay, perfect.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so everyone that teaches had this done. So this, I think, is a pretty good metric of what our compliance rate is right now. Okay, so that's where we're at. The last thing that I'm going to talk about in my report is our new distance education certification processes, which are coming at a great time because we clearly need some development in the area of distance ed, and we got all this approved last year, which means it'll be implemented coming in the fall. So there's now 3 pathways for faculty to certify to teach online courses. The first is that they can take an external training course that has been approved by the Distance Ed Committee, which I co-chair, along with Francisco Castillo. We looked at 30, 40 different colleges and the trainings that they offer and compared them to what we plan to offer here, and we approved 25 of them. So if we hire faculty from other places or they choose to train another place, they can come in and qualify that training to teach here. The second pathway is an 8-week, 40-hour course that I'm going to be building over the summer probably, that is based on the previous training course, but a much expanded version. Our previous course was only 12 hours. This one is going to be 40, spread over 8 weeks, and it's going to be much more comprehensive and cover some of the latest legal changes to distance education that people that trained many years ago may not have been exposed to yet. And the last piece of it, the last pathway rather, is a peer review process, which is going to be a pretty intensive iterative process where faculty will submit an online course to a trained peer reviewer. They'll go through multiple rounds of edits until we have a final polished class that certifies them to teach online and then can then serve as a framework for them to build their courses on into the future. So all of these pathways require proof they can do it, and they can do it well, and in ways that comply with the law and with accreditation. And that is the end of my report.
On pathway number 1?
Yes.
Would that, the other colleges you mentioned, would those be community college districts that offer those classes? Not necessarily a 4-year college, but
So some of them are. So
it could be either.
Yeah, we pretty much looked at whether or not the training was of sufficient duration, like are they training for 10 hours, are they training closer to 40 or 50, and then we looked to make sure that it covered 4 key areas, which were assessment, accessibility, course design, and interaction, because those are the 4 areas of quality that accreditation looks at and that the law is starting to kind of crawl into.
And this is applicable to adjunct as well as full-time faculty, correct?
Yes, both COSAFA and COSTA are obligated to recertify sometime before June 2028 using one of these pathways if they want to continue teaching online at COS.
I'm on pathway 3. Are the peers necessarily COS online?
Yes.
They have to.
So we recruited faculty. I think we have 17 faculty members who took a 60-hour training to be able to do this. And they're pretty well prepared, I think, to evaluate quality and give collegial feedback and build up the courses of their colleagues.
In the initial group that went through the peer-to-peer review, I don't know whether this information is available, but is there any, have you broken it out, or is there any correlation between me not having gone through peer-to-peer versus me going through peer-to-peer and the success rate or the interaction?
Did they end up on the RSI?
Yeah, the RSI.
Like in our sample, you mean? Or
Well, in the initial group, of which 75% completed.
Went through, 25% didn't.
right.
Did the 25% didn't automatically end up on the watch list for the RSI?
No, actually, okay, I understand. So no, surprisingly, there were quite a few people who went through the training back in the fall that ended up on the list again this time. But one of the things that we found was that all of the standards might be met in a course, but if a reviewer can't find them, then they might as well not be there. And so a lot of what that 2-hour course that the 34% is taking is about making it obvious, right? It's not so much changing your practices, it's making them visible. So when an accrediting agency gets in there, it's a no-brainer. They see that it's there, it's visible, it's evident, we're an easy pass. That's what
And I
I'm-
can speak, to, having chaired a couple of ACC-JC visits now, I can speak to that very point, that the shells, the Canvas shells and online shells are different from class to class and certainly from campus to campus. And so as a review team, you know, you're seeing it for the first time on a Tuesday and expected to kind of write something about it on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And you may not see everything that's there, especially in terms of interaction, because they may do all their email correspondence and group emails and back and forth questions outside of a Canvas shell. And so if you're only looking at it for an hour or two, you may not, as a reviewer, you may not see those things. And so that's not the extent of our problem, but that is part of our problem, as it is for a lot of the visits that I've been involved with, is that back when we used to stay on a campus for a week, it seemed like that small group in charge of that would spend literally 4 days trying to bird dog down some of these issues. And so Elise and her team are making it a lot easier by trying to emphasize to our faculty, take all of these things and put it into one area, and then we'll put a big red button that says, click here for RSI examples, I think. That's oversimplification, but that's kind of what we're trying to do, is make it painfully obvious as to where you go to get these kind of examples.
And we have an opportunity in the likely event, apparently, that that's an area that we're going to fall short, to demonstrate that, to show the documentation, right?
We have, in the new format, all we've been told so far is there was enough there for us to ask some questions, us to put a core inquiry around this. And so they're gonna come back and take another sample in June for this spring's classes, and hopefully those fare better. Again, they're not looking at 200 classes, they're taking a representative sample of 15. I would prefer if they would look at all 200, because you know, looking at 12, 15 is, you're kind of leaving some things up to chance. But at any rate, they're going to take another look in June, and then they don't come out until September. And depending on how things shake out in June, and probably even if they were fabulous in June, they'll take another look when they're on site in September. And I'm sure there'll be some back and forth, and we may get to the point where we are opening up 25, 50 classes, and really trying to get a sense of where we're at as an institution for that team. But clearly, this is really the only core inquiry that we have on the, what we'll call the negative side, and they'll be here for 3 days. So I think we're gonna have plenty of time to really kind of surround this issue and find out where we're at.
Thank you.
This may very well be redundant to what John asked and what Brent commented on, but to the extent that there was 34% that didn't meet the RSI, was there a root cause that caused that we can put our finger on, or is it just a culmination of various? And I didn't mean to ask and answer the question, but.
It's really across the board. Some courses that didn't fully comply, it was something as simple as like, it was kind of hard to find your communication policy. And obviously in interaction, that's something that's like vitally important for us to tell students how they're gonna interact. So in some areas, it was something as simple as that. In others, it was that students aren't getting enough grading feedback. It was really all over the place. But the goal of the 2-hour RSI course was that faculty kind of self-identify. They were told what standard they didn't meet, and then they were given the chance to train in all of them and complete exercises that allow them to populate the missing things within their course. So if the course was taken seriously, which to me it seems largely that it has been so far, by the time they're done with it, the gaps should be filled. And so we'll have more data after May 29th when we do that second check, but I'm hopeful that it'll make a difference.
So what happens if you don't meet the 85%?
Well, if they come back in September, and by the way, the Department of Ed, they're not saying that 85% of your classes should be in compliance with this. If they were here right now, they'd say 100% of your classes should be in compliance with this. But when we do our checks, when our accreditors like the ACCJC do their checks, you know, obviously that standard of 100%, nobody in the country would pass. So 85% is kind of the standard they use when they're doing these spot checks, if you will. So if they were to come back in September, and we could, in the 3 days they're here, and even some follow-up, we couldn't demonstrate that at least 85% of our courses are in compliance, then we would get a recommendation for what they call compliance, which means we would have a year and a half to continue this work and submit another report after 18 months. So our accreditation would still be good, and in fact, numerous colleges are finding themselves having to do this. None of us want to, but that's the reality. For some colleges right now, they're a year and a half, they're having to respond to this one item. Not everything else, but they have to respond to this one item, and that conceivably could happen to us. Again, we don't want to see that. I think it's embarrassing for all of us. We knew it was coming, and you know, if we're going to teach online, we need to do it well, or not do it. And I think we all are united in our feelings about that. But that's what the process is. They'll come back in September, and if we still can't demonstrate it, then it'll be an ongoing process for us to prove ourselves worthy of teaching online.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. Appreciate all your hard work.
Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Perez for quarterly financial report, budget accounting, accountability, and CCFS-31Q.
Perfect. Good evening, Board. Before I start with this, let me just give you a little update on the 25-26 budget that's going on. As you know, the governor released his budget in January. We're waiting for the May revise. Constitutionally in California, the May revise has to be done by May 14th. So any day now, next 2 days, we'll hear what the latest and the greatest. It's been silent on all fronts. Nobody's saying a word. Last thing we heard, there's a $10 billion shortfall in revenue. Again, we just don't know. We don't know what it's going to impact to the student center funding formula, but we do know the 2.43 COLA that the governor proposed in January has now gone down to 2.30. Our growth is at 0.5. So you heard President Calvin talk about 10,500 FTS funded. We'll get 0.5 growth, and we already reached that. That's 52 FTS. That's nothing. You talked about unfunded FTS. There's a good side and the bad side. The good side, as President Calvin said, we're meeting the student needs, we're meeting the community needs, and we're hiring adjunct to teach those classes. Or it can come from overload, or it can come from larger lecture classes. The bad part is we're not getting that revenue from the state. So yeah, 500 unfunded FTS, about roughly around 9,000 per FTS, 4.5 million. So what is 500 FTS in classes? If you just do, and I'm not picking on the adjunct, but if you pick adjunct, 3-unit classes, say it's 2.5 FTS per class. That's 200 classes at 4,000 per class. So that's about, do 4,000 times that, that's what, 800,000 I think it is? So that's an expense to the budget. But again, it's a good problem to have. We're meeting the needs of the students in the community, and we can afford to do that. So when you hear unfunded FTS, there's a good and a bad. On the business side, it's a bad, but on the community side, it's a great thing to have. So I just wanted to let you know about that.
The declining enrollment, I mean, there have been some circumstances through the years where, you know, if I didn't spend all mine and you spent more than yours, you could draw from the pot. Is that a
So
conversation?
that's what we're hoping for. So
Okay.
when you hear 500 FTS unfunded, those community colleges that are not reaching their pre-COVID FTS number, they won't get growth. So we're hoping that unearned growth will be distributed to community colleges that are reaching that growth. So again, if it does happen, we're in a prime seat to raise our funded FTS level. So again, it's a balance. So, yeah.
And with the fires and some other funky things that have happened to the state budget, that we're just not sure that it's the best year. They may just take those unallocated dollars and send them somewhere else and, you know, outside of education.
And then also just remind you, remember, scheduled maintenance, that in 2022-23, we received $9 million. 2 months left in the fiscal year, they took back 5. We only had 4 million. Next fiscal year went to 200,000. This year it went to 0. So no scheduled maintenance statewide. So what do districts use? They have to use their general fund for scheduled maintenance. So there's a lot of competing priorities for our general fund dollars. So I just wanted to let you know. I know Trustee Sherman and Trustee Lane, you are part of the subcommittee, the finance board for the board. So I'll be emailing you and the president when the May revise comes out. Again, we expect it this Wednesday. To let you know what's happening there. So with that, I'll go to the quarterly financial report, and this is for March 31st of this fiscal year, 24-25. And this is a report we sent to the Chancellor's office. And if you can scroll down, Megan. Again, on the right-hand side, we see projected 24-25. That's what we're talking about. So on line A3, our unrestricted, which is student center funding formula, our unrestricted general fund revenue is a little over 105.8 million. On the expenditure side, B3, we're looking at 104.19 million in expenditures to date, or for the budget we're projecting. So we're looking at a surplus of $1.65 million at this time. I do want to bring attention to row D, the beginning fund balance. If you look at it, it's 29.738. We ended last fiscal year at 29.738. D1, you'll see a prior year adjustment. What does that mean? Just remember, when our fiscal year ends June 30th, it takes 8 months for the state to do a recalc or true up. So in February, receive an additional little over $1 million. So our fund balance starting this fiscal year, which is July of last year, 30.8 million. So if you took that 30.8 million with a little over $1 million surplus, 32.45 million as a fund balance, or 31.2%. Again, this goes to the board priority number 7, for us to give you updates on the student center funding formula, and also to maintain our general fund balance higher than the state average. State average is roughly around 29%. Again, that 32.45 will not be the number, because you'll see in my next slide, a one-time use, you'll see what a proposal is for one-time uses. Just scroll down, Megan. Cash on hand, you'll see 36.7. That's a good thing to have. This fiscal year, we're at a 7% deficit. What does a deficit means is the state says I owe you $1, I can't afford to pay you $1, so I'm going to deficit you 7%. What is that to us? Out of the $105.8 million, the state still owes us $7 million. So, and we only have 2 more months in the fiscal year. So what do we use to float that until they true us up or recount? We use our cash on hand. So that's what we use. Because we have payroll to pay, we have bills to pay, we have to operate the district. Next, there you go, perfect. Then again, you'll see on the revenues, you'll see highlighted of that 105.8 million on the budget side. If you look on the right, we received about 74.3%. Then on the expenditure side, which is to be expected 3 quarters into the fiscal year, 77.168, or about 74% of the expenditures. And if you scroll down, there'd be some questions. Did we settle any contracts this quarter? No, we settled that all the first or second quarter of this fiscal year. Do we have any significant events, audit findings, trans? I do want to point out what trans means. Trans are temporary revenue anticipation notes, which means community colleges are doing that. They don't have enough cash on hand, which you just saw. So what they're going out is they're borrowing against their property taxes.
We used to do that too.
Oh, okay. So it's nothing, you've heard it before. You don't want to get in that business, so.
That's when you were president.
Yeah.
So the good thing, we don't have
Finished
to.
Tulare on a tran, remember that?
Yeah.
We finished Tulare on a tran.
And then if you scroll down, I think that's the final. Again, any fiscal problems this year? No. Anything, any issues we see next year? No. And then what are we looking at for May 12th of 25? Again, if you scroll down to the very bottom, there you go. We're comparing last month to this month. Again, you saw the 1.655 surplus. The left-hand side is the general fund unrestricted. The right-hand side is the restricted programs, which are categoricals and grants, what have you. Money comes in, 100% needs to be expended, so you'll never see a surplus or deficit on the right-hand side. You scroll down a little more. Again, these are the reasons why revenue has gone up in our restricted program, which are categoricals and grants, and then major expense changes in unrestricted. And you see there's just money moving around, and you see the bottom net is 0 there. And lastly, if you scroll down there, again, surplus, when we took the budget to you in September of 24, which is the 24-25 budget, we anticipated a $3.149 million surplus. We knew at that time negotiations were still ongoing. So you see in October where we settled, and if you keep scrolling down a little bit on the left-hand side, you'll see on the left-hand side, general fund surplus went from 3.1 to 2.7. Negotiations were settled in October, so the surplus in November 4th of 24 went from 2.7, a little over 674,000. And then if you go to the right-hand side, Megan, if you scroll, there we go. And it just continues forward month after month, and you'll see there's no change from April 21st through May 12th. So again, 1.655 unbudgeted surplus, which is different than, or it's in addition to any kind of fallout that happens at the end of the year. Not everybody spends 100% of their budget, so we expect some more fallout to happen at the end of the year when we do close. Yes?
You're not anticipating having to draw down on our reserves, are you?
Well, we are drawing down on reserves right now as a float. This is all budget. This is budget. So you.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I meant the reserves that we have, the 30% reserves we have.
We use the cash in there for like 2 months until the state brings us, but we're not gonna spend our reserves permanently, if you will.
Right. What we do is we use our cash. We don't touch that balance. We just set up accounts receivable saying it's going to come in from the state. It'll take some while, but we're not showing a negative there. Any questions on that one?
Thank you very much. Moving on to one-time funds in unrestricted general fund, one-time funds expenditure plan. Mr. Brooks.
So again, this goes hand in hand with our integrated planning and our, how we allocate resources for one-time needs. I'll just touch on this cover sheet. There you go on the background. Again, what you saw was a 1.655 estimated ending surplus, unbudgeted surplus. We anticipate it's going to be $3 million. The reason that you're going to see this request at 2.5 in excess of the 1.66 is facilities and IT need to get started in the summer with the labs. Byron's going to be tearing down some buildings. That's in a consent item behind the Cedar building, doing a lot of construction and remodels in the library. There's a lot of things that are going on that they do, those two departments do during the summer to be less disruptive of the classes. Let's see here. So if you scroll down to the next page, Megan, there you go. So I wanted to show you, and you've seen this all before, it's called a three-legged stool. Scroll down to the very bottom. I just want to touch on there you go, model for integrated planning. I think that you heard that many a times. It's master plan, strategic plan, and then what do we use that? We do resource allocation. Everything that you hear somebody who needs money for has to go through program review. Francisco just left. I was going to give him some kudos, but everything goes through a comprehensive program review. From there, it goes to the deans, the supervisors, the vice presidents. The vice presidents bring their needs to senior management. Then we take a look at it and say, let's play nice in the sandbox kind of thing, but what are the needs of the district? What can we financially afford? So again, if you scroll up again, I'm sorry, Megan, on the left-hand side is base budget above base resources. Again, remember, $300,000 every year. Folks in the program review put those needs through. It goes to respective vice presidents. They prioritize them and send them to the budget committee. The budget committee then screens them, ranks them, and then we allocate the dollars. It goes out in March. They have to the end of the fiscal year to spend the money. If not, we carry it over to the next fiscal year. We don't want to penalize them.
Microscope, a new truck.
Yes.
A one-time item over and above what their budget would pay for, it would be in the blue side there. And that we generally budget $300,000 per year for that, give or take.
And the middle yellow is base budget reallocation within their FOP or within their department, which means you don't get any extra money, but if you want to move it from supplies down to software licenses, you can, but the net sum game is a zero part. So that's done. So currently we're on ongoing base budget augmentations. I just shared that with the budget committee this past Thursday. DGS will see it tomorrow, and then you all will see it at tentative budget in next month.
So that's where you're increasing your ongoing budget.
Ongoing
Your
expenditures.
subscription for some kind of software went from $1,000 to $1,500 for the year. You're gonna cover it internally, or you're gonna request another $500 in ongoing budget augmentation for that.
And if you scroll down right in the middle of that page, that arrow that's pointing to leg number 2, again, new staff and faculty. Faculty always want to meet the FON number. That's through the Vice President of Academic Services. They work up that number and work with their committee to get that number. New staffing, classified managers, that goes through program review, again, through senior management. Long story short, is I'm trying to get to is that blue, there you go, the blue one on the right-hand side. This is the one-time funding. After all that, if there's anything left over at the end of the year, we look at it and say, the president and myself look at it and say, what are the needs of the district? We get with senior manager and say, what are your needs as your divisions, your departments? What do you need? We have one-time funding. What can we do? So again, this is information for you. This meeting, next month in June, will come as an action item. Budget committee approved it last week. DGS will, knock on wood, approve it tomorrow. And if you scroll down, Megan, here's a list of items. Again, goes through senior management. You'll see Measure C. And funds needed, of course, Measure C is the bond, $95 million. So again, there's no need out of the general fund. It's all bond money. Then you'll see the miscellaneous stuff on the Visalia campus. And I won't read them all, but you'll see Lot 7 driveway reroute. We're tearing down the Cedar building, so current 7.2A and 7.2B is a product of the Cedar building being shut down or being torn down. We're going to tear that down in this summer. You'll see Lodgepole, 3 lines there. I'm doing a total remodel of the library there, Learning Resource Center. Giant Threads, we're off on Mooney, we're relocating that. So total, again, $965,000. Again, I just want to remind you that scheduled maintenance would have paid for a majority of this. Now it's general fund responsibility. That's what we're taking from the general fund. Next time will be Hanford. Is Michelle here? Don't hit me, Michelle. But the only thing we're showing right now is digital marquee upgrade, and that's been on there for a few years. So Byron said we'll get that done. We want to get that done. And his other needs, as the provost in Hanford has, She works with Byron, and we get those and look for funding for those. Tulare, Applied Trades and Applied Technologies and Trades. I was looking at Luann. Again, some other little over 100,000 of some needs that need to be met. The biggest is food services remodel there and the plaza shade structure. Now, with all those programs moving over from downtown Tulare over to Tulare proper, food service is busting at the seams. Luann can attest to that. There's students there all the time. So we're trying to make a bigger kitchen. We're going to blow out a wall, make a door that enters that plaza out there, the grass area, with a big shade structure there. So we'll be meeting with Luann and with Byron and Zach of Food Services and getting some design there and a timeline there. And then again, a digital marquee. So those three, all three of our campuses, so our, just right now is 1.9 million. That does not include HVAC breaking down. That includes anything as sidewalks being cracked, but that's our needs that we're showing right now, and that's 1.9. Then if you scroll down, not enough that what Dave needs or Glenn need or Greg needs, excuse me, is servers, Wi-Fi, computer refresh, audio visual, 500,000. Remember a couple years ago, their initial need was 3 fiscal years, I think it was $3 million. We hit that. We did it in 3 years. So they got that, but they still need more. As we grow, and you heard Jeremy talk about it, as we grow with equipment, there's a need to refresh that equipment. So again, 500,000 this go around, knowing that that will be a spot there. If there's any other fallout at the end of the year, that will probably put some money into there. So district-wide, about 2.4, I'll just round up to 2.5 million. So again, even though you saw a 1.6 budgeted, unbudgeted surplus, we're estimating about 3 million. So we're comfortable at a 2.5 at this point in time. And the reason I'm getting ahead of this is they need to get their POs, purchase orders, established and be ready for the summer. There will become another time in September, knock on wood, we might have some additional fallout, unspent money, that the same thing will happen again, the same process. It's informational and action item there. Just another thing, just to let you know, our OPEB report that we just got, it shows that we're still fully 100% funded. I'll be bringing that to the board in June for your review and comment there. So luckily, we don't have to contribute any money in that area right there. So with that, this is information, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on this one. All right, thank you.
Your report. Next, Dr. Calvin, the 2025-2028 COS Strategic Plan.
Thank you, President Macareno. We actually have, in action items later, we'll be looking at the 2025, 2035 master plan, which, you know, if we were just going to plan this thing any way we wanted to, we'd probably go through the master plan first and then the strategic plan. But master plan requires action. Strategic plan on the 3-year level does not. It's information only. But you guys have been through this several times, and you know how they fit together, and I'll kind of go over through this PowerPoint, and then you've all got copies of both the master plan and the strategic plan. So if my PowerPoint doesn't illuminate any questions you have, we can always go to the actual document themselves. I want to thank Dr. Ozturk and the research department, as well as several groups we'll get to, for all of their work on the master plan and the strategic plan. It's been a heavy, heavy lift to do these almost simultaneously. You're all aware of our integrated planning process. Everything is designed to ensure that it drives our mission. So the mission is the basis for our 10-year master plan. That 10-year master plan has district goals, as we'll see later on this evening. And then on a 3-year basis, normally, sometimes a 4-year basis, we have a strategic plan with objectives and actions that drive those broad goal areas and in turn drive our mission. Any requests for new resources, whether it's ongoing personnel, whether it's budget augmentations to the subscriptions I was talking about earlier, or whether it's one-time need for a microscope, those things fall under institutional program review. They're reviewed and prioritized, and if you do get a resource allocation, you're required to not only implement that plan, but then assess how it went. Okay, you're gonna add 50 microscopes across your entire department to increase access or success or whatever. A year later, did it help? I mean, did we generate more access or more success or whatever we said we were gonna do with those microscopes? Did it help? And so we assessed that and we put it out in our annual college report on the master plan, which you see every fall. And if it's good, great, we'll celebrate it. If not, if we haven't quite reached it yet, we'll throw it back into the strategic plan and see if we do better the second year or the third year. That's the whole basis behind our integrated planning model, continuous improvement. Those are the manuals that you're all familiar with on the left, and those are the soon-to-be new covers of our master plan and strategic plan on the right. Strategic plan is a way of, again, taking our district objectives and driving our master plan goals. So we use the objectives and the actions to do that, and then we assess how well we did for the year. These were generated by several different task forces. Goal Area 1, 2, 3, and 4 all had their own task forces. We had a summit. Eventually they came to senior management and now here to the board. Kind of the core group there was IPEC, Institutional Planning and Effectiveness Committee. They did yeoman's work this year on both of these plans. Here's a list of the strategic plan task forces. You see in goal area number 1, growth, success. We're calling the third area respond for the time being. It's formerly known as equity. We've moved equity as kind of an overlapping theme in all of our goal areas. And you'll see what we're talking about when we talk about respond. And then improve is the area formerly known as continuous improvement or sustainability. We're just calling it improve. Pictures from our, I think this is our strategic plan summit held in Morrow Gym, but we did hold a strategic plan task force training in September. And then a month later, we had a strategic plan summit to get input and feedback from interested parties on campus. And then we brought those groups, IPEC, Program Review, Senior Management, Dean's Council, Budget Committee, and Academic Senate together for a strategic plan joint meeting this spring, just to get feedback on these objectives and actions. We ended up with, again, one mission, 4 goals, which you'll see later, but 10 objectives again, and a total of 48 actions. This is an example, a generic example of how things are laid out. At the top, we have the district goal from our master plan. Then we've got the district objective and number. Under that, we have the rationale for it, and then down below we have the action in support of that objective. You've all come to be familiar with this, and we didn't want to change what we're all used to. So within goal area number 1, and again, it's a little anticlimactic because I'm going to go through the goals later on, but here's goal area number 1, growing with an emphasis on underserved populations, which we already did. We just weren't quite as intentional having it in the title and so forth. And then, so district objective 1.1 is what I'll focus on right now. Working closely with local educational and industry partners, the district will increase enrollment of underserved populations in programs with pathways related to the fastest growing employment sectors by 1% annually during the next 3 years. Goal area 2 is always the area that has multiple objectives. No different this year. Again, we're working to improve success and close achievement gaps. 2.1 increase in the number of students who earn a degree. 2.2 increase in the number of students that are transfer ready and to transfer to four-year institutions. That's the area that we continue to struggle with a little bit. And we're all aware of some of the factors there. Hopefully University Center will start chipping away at that a bit, but there's more we can do on top of that. DO number 2.3, increase in the students that complete transfer level QR in English, similar to what we had last time. And then 2.4, increase in the number of our CTE students who are employment and career ready, increasing that number by 5% over the next 3 years. Pretty similar to what we've been doing. Goal area number 3 was equity. It is still related to equity, equitable academic offerings and support services. 3.1 is strengthening our pathways by aligning course offerings with student needs through adjustments in scheduling, location, modality, ensuring access to appropriate academic offerings that support their goals and timely completion. One of them can be if we're serious about the trades and maybe about working adults coming back to school, you can't necessarily offer classes in person from 8 to noon for working adults. It's got to be either a remote, and you'd have to look at technology to see if that group is as adept at technology as maybe some of their younger students, or you look at building up your night offerings. That's just one example of many that we could use in this area. DO 3.2 is promoting access to student support services such that 60% of student respondents agree their access to student service programs are being met. If you're like me, you see the 60% and you think, well, that's not a very high standard to meet. And we probably will tweak this a bit, massage it a bit. Where we run into problems is with that 60% of student respondents, many students will say, well, I wasn't aware of this, or maybe it doesn't interest me, so I'm not aware of this. And so the numbers end up maybe lower than they need to be, artificially low. So we probably need to word that a little bit differently. Dr. Osterk and I have talked about this extensively. It just kind of ran out of time for this. For instance, not all of our students are going to need to visit the Giant Threads program. I think they may feel like they're supported enough at home or through financial aid. They're not necessarily going to visit the Giant Threads. So when this comes up on a survey of how familiar they are with the Giant Threads program, they may just say, I'm not aware, I'm not interested. And the challenge right now is the way we look at those numbers, they would count towards kind of a negative towards that 60%. It kind of brings the number down. So I would say it's artificially low the way our current surveys are done. So we've got some work to do there. So I don't need to make a 10-minute clarification as to why it's so low. We'll work on that. But the idea here is we want to make sure in District Objective 3.2 that we're promoting access to student support services so that all the students that need assistance in these areas are getting it, because we've got some fabulous programs. And frankly, there are areas where students that really could use the help in some of these areas maybe aren't as aware as they should be. And so part of it is just kind of working through the data to make sure that we're getting accurate numbers that reflect the actual need. So, goal area number 4, continuous improvement. It's our old sustainability. It's just making sure that we're using data and governance and our analytical practices to ensure accessibility of accurate, relevant data to enable good decision-making, enhancing our communication strategies, and then making sure that we continue to invest in professional development and capture that accurately. So very, very similar to what sustainability has been like over the last couple of cycles of our strategic plan. With that, happy to answer any questions you may have. And again, you're going to get an even longer look at this in action because we are going to review and ask for approval of the 10-year master plan. Questions for me or Dr. Oster?
Any questions? I did have one question since you brought up 3.2. Is there an opportunity to ever survey those that do use the services and still ask for the answer of are their needs being met? For example, you could have someone that says, well, I do attend tutoring and it is available, but it's not enough, or not enough hours or something. Is that a...
We've talked about that. It seems like it's hard to buy a cup of coffee and not get a survey in your email anymore.
No, I understand.
And we don't do a lot of that. We don't do a lot of immediate surveying, and maybe we should be looking at a little bit more of kind of at that time, how was your service? Did it meet your needs? Is there more that we can be doing? Don't currently do a lot of that. We generally wait and do it in an annual survey, and so we're looking at that. There are some logistical challenges to getting that done, so we don't currently do much of that. But I think there are some ways for us to kind of tiptoe into that into that strategy.
I love data, and I know sometimes it could be more than you actually need, you know, in regards to like the marketplace. You know, is 18 items too many items, or is it not enough items? You know,
I'm proud to say we're up to 20 now.
Oh, that's
So-
what I'm saying. Maybe it should go to 20, but I don't know. Sometimes it's nice to get information that you can use to improve or increase.
Courtney, make sure your sister knows I got it straight this time. Because they changed it about a year ago.
Oh, okay.
And every time I went over there on a tour, she was correcting me when I said 18.
I know, it's planted in my head, 18. Okay, any other questions? No?
Nope.
That's just information. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Moving on to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. An item may be removed from the consent calendar at the request of any member of the Board of Trustees or any member of the audience and considered a separate agenda item. Anyone like to pull any of the items considered for the consent calendar, minutes of the previous meeting, personnel report, payment of bills, working budget approval, renewal of legal assistance for the district, master lease agreement, informal bid award, out-of-state travel request, ratification of the 2025-2026 sabbatical.
Item 5, please.
Item 5
Item 11.
and item 11. Any other items? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 5 and item 11.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Sherman, seconded by trustee Lane. Nunes? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll take a look at the minutes of the previous meeting, item 5.
Yeah, on page 4, I guess, I almost didn't pull it because I'm not asking for a change, but in item D, the 5th paragraph, what's attributed to my comments is not inaccurate, but, you know, for me, when I read through it, at least the first time, it felt incomplete. And that is, with regard, well, it's just one sentence. Trustee Lane expressed concern about the leniency given to the faculty who did not comply initially, questioning why they are granted the time to correct deficiencies. And we're talking about accreditation and distance learning. I'm not at all concerned with giving somebody a second chance, but when it's been very clear what the expectation is, and you don't follow it, to give an additional chance after you've been instructed to do that and you're paid to do the work, that's where I had the problem. So I say that for the benefit of the board members, not necessarily for the record. I'm not asking for it to be changed, but that was I just felt compelled to do that. So with that, I would move for approval of item 5.
I'll second.
Motion by trustee Lane, seconded by trustee Nunes. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 11, informal bid award, Cedar
I
Building.
just had, I know that this item is an expenditure out of Measure C.
Yes, it is.
And I was just curious, looks like we only had one bid.
One bid.
And you may have others, but they were non-conforming or,
No,
I
just only
guess.
one bid. The same company that tore down the apartment complex over there.
Right.
And it's informal because our bid limit is 115, so it fell under the $115,000 mark. So
Oh, so it's not a,
it's not where we have to go and advertise.
oh, I
big
see now
formal, yeah.
that you say informal bid
Informal.
award. So that's why it's in the consent calendar.
Yes.
So, okay, so I apologize for that, and with that, I would move for approval of item 11 of the consent calendar.
Second.
By trustee Nunes, seconded by trustee Sherman. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to action items, 2025, 2023 COS Master Plan, Dr. Calvin.
I'm still up.
Yeah, pretty good stuff.
Yeah. So, before you throw a tomato at me, because it's a 33 slide deck here, it started off as 45 slides, and I trimmed it down to 33. So, throw them at Dolly if you have any, but nobody can come.
You need a restroom break for anything?
Nobody can blame or accuse him of not being thorough. Right, Katie? Katie has the pleasure of sitting on IPEC and seeing that thoroughness. Front row. We've already gone through this, so we're ahead of the game. Again, 10-year master plan with district goals, 3 or 4 year strategic plan with district objectives. Manuals, covers, kind of from the top, just our vision, mission, master plan, goals, strategic plan with action, or objectives, actions, and assessment, and hopefully allows us to take our mission and parlay it into student success. That's the whole point here. Planning considerations, the context of how we do this. There's a lot that goes into these, and we're joking a little bit about being thorough, but there's a ton that goes into this, and it's been about close to a 2-year process. And these are the kinds of things that we have to look at. External considerations, a lot coming from the Chancellor's Office, the Chancellor's Office Vision 2030, the Chancellor's Office Call to Action, AB 705 and 1705, Guided Pathways, and the new CalGETSI that came down from UC to CSU to now us. And then obviously local considerations, our vision statement, our mission statement, and our equity statement all play a role here, and we need to be consistent across all of those considerations. This is just, if there were questions about what these documents are, but they're all posted on our website, vision, philosophy, equity, and mission. Here's the Vision 2030 roadmap with 3 strategic directions, 3 goals and 6 outcomes. We last year when it was introduced by our new statewide chancellor. It aligns pretty well with our last master plan and certainly with our new master plan that you're seeing here tonight. Schedule, not going to be real readable. Down below, you see or across the left-hand margin, you see the years. But these last 3 years have been very, very busy in terms of planning, master plan, strategic plan, mission review. Every year, the IPEC does a annual report on the master plan. It's been a very busy year, and kudos to that group for the work they've done. Who are the people of the plan? 14 faculty, 9 administrators, 7 staff members, and 2 students, making up a 32-member task force for the master plan. Here are some of the names and faces. Good group, hardworking group. You see there, I mean, it wasn't all they were working on. They worked on a lot. They had a busy 2024-25 slate, but these are the 2 key things: complete writing these 2 documents. Thank you also to our research team made up of Dr. Ozturk, Ryan Barry Souza, and Tyler Verdon. Small but mighty team, as well as Faye Moline, the administrative assistant in that area. There's the purposes of the master plan, evaluating our district's effectiveness in fulfilling our mission, analyzing current state and national trends in higher ed, along with demographic forecasts, establishing our district goals, aligning the district's educational requirements with facility planning, which that's a big one, and then informing the public about our future plans. And then it also really serves as kind of a guiding light. Kind of that, I think at one meeting I compared it to maybe a lighthouse by which ships can kind of navigate from. So much of what we do here in terms of future planning, we have to tie to our master plan. This is the way it's organized. Chapter 1 is a background chapter. 2 is the data chapter. It's organized into kind of 2 sections, which we'll see in a moment. Chapter 3 is the goal area. 4 is where 35 different programs and services get to, and divisions get to kind of talk about what they have going, the challenges and opportunities within each of their areas. And then 5 is when we link the educational plan to the facilities plan. And then 6, 7, and 8 all do specific facility plans for the 3 sites, Visalia, Hanford, and Tulare. About 150 pages total. Board members, I know you about a month ago you got a draft of it, but we've got a hard copy here. And thank you to our copy and mail service. I was the problem, and I was supposed to get this to them a week ago and got it to them about 3 hours ago, and they were able to come through with this. So thank you to Lisa and her crew over there. But chapter 1 is, Chapter 1 it provides a historical context, the geographical context, a comparison of higher ed in the region, how students are served, and then other contextual background that help the reader understand kind of where we're at as an institution. Chapter 2, Part 1, is a profile of the communities and the students that we serve. You see that down the left-hand side, a lot lot of demographics and trends. 46 data sets go into part one of chapter two, so that we can come back in part two of chapter two and talk about our current and anticipated challenges. And this is huge. You can kind of see how this builds on itself, right? We're talking about our students and the data and trends behind that, which help us identify the challenges, both current and what we see in the future, which then allow us to identify those challenges and kind of summarize them in 4 areas. And you see where this is going. Those 4 challenge areas become our goal, our broad goal areas. So challenge 1 was providing equitable access across all district campuses to meet our community's needs. Challenge number 2 was improving student success for a diverse student population. Challenge 3 was aligning those offerings and providing equitable academic and student support services to respond to that population. And then 4 was to continuously improve our policies, practices, and systems so that we can sustain this effort for decades to come. Those are the 4 areas of challenge, if you will, which kind of builds the foundation to get into chapter 3, district goals. The draft district goals anyway were put together by a 6-member brainstorming group. And you can see the representatives there. They worked just to kind of organize people's thoughts. There was a lot of work that went into getting this far, and so that group was represented by research, IPEC, and the task force. And in January of '24, they were able to put some draft goals together. Dr. Robinson is also in the room, and she played a significant role in helping Dolly and the task force kind of move forward, and she was involved in this effort as well. To the point where we ended up landing on, once they were kind of fleshed out and smoothed over a bit, we ended up with these 4 goal areas. And you got a peek at them within the strategic plan, but goal area 1 is increasing student enrollment relative to population growth and labor market workforce demands, which is almost identical to what we've been working under, right? But we added in the caveat with an intentional emphasis on underserved populations within our community. We were doing that piece more on a strategic plan objective level, and we've kind of elevated that and kind of made it more intentional by throwing it into a goal area. Goal area 2, again, looks pretty similar, improving success and closing achievement gaps. The goal actually reads that we'll improve student success, transfer learning and achievement outcomes, and close the achievement gap for all students represented within our diverse student population. Again, that last part was mainly handled via objectives within our strategic plan. We've kind of elevated the intentionality there of the diverse student population. Goal 3, I talked about it more at length in the strategic plan, but again, offering equitable academic offerings and support services, whether it's the time of day, whether it's the modality, whether it's the location, making sure we're meeting students where they're at and where they can be successful, and using data to help navigate that. And then finally, this is very, very similar to sustainability, looking to continuously improve policies, practices, and systems to ensure a high quality and affordable education for the community we serve for decades to come. We should have added. That kind of goes without saying, but we're looking at sustaining what we're doing here for years to come. This then jumps right into chapter 4, which is our opportunity to flex a little bit, and 35 programs and services were able to state their purpose, and analyze their data, show their growth projections, and then talk about any challenges that they foresee. Not only great for us to share that information out with the greater community, but also I think a great process for each of these 35 programs and services to go through internally. It helps them plan better, I think, especially the data and analysis to look at the full-time equivalent students that we serve and look at the full-time faculty that we do it with, the course success rates and other data is really important. I think it's a great exercise for all of us to go through from time to time. And then wrapping things up, we've got Chapter 5 is our facilities master plan. Just making sure that we're analyzing our space utilization, the current inventory of what we have, and our planning standards. I think we'd all agree that we do a fabulous job here of maintaining our facilities and building new facilities just in time to use them. Sometimes I poke fun at the surrounding districts because they boast a little bit about getting their first new building in 65 years. Folks, that's not something I'd boast about. Like, we've done, what do we think, 15 or 20 new buildings in the 20 years that I've been an employee here. We just tend to do a better job in that regard, and part of it's because we plan for it. And this is another great example. Thank you to Dean Woods and his group for compiling this, and it fits nicely into our 10-year master plan. So then, again, the final 3 chapters are looking at taking what's done here and then showing it on maybe more of a micro per campus level, Visalia, Tulare, Hanford, just so we're specifically planning for those areas. And then again, we always like to emphasize the amount of data that's available to anyone. This is an outward-facing website that we have, and you could spend days lost in this labyrinth of reports that we've done. It really is great information. I would start with the COS fact book and go from there, but these are the institutional planning documents that we have, and they're very, very informative about where we've been and where we're going as a district. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this presentation or the plan itself.
Brett, I'm not sure, when you said you were referring to Chapter 5, the facilities master plan, and you said the final 3 chapters were, you got me a little confused there. Did you mean?
It's 8 chapters total.
Okay.
Oh, 5 chapters total with.
It's condensed, those
Okay.
3 campuses were condensed in Chapter 5.
Okay, so it's part of Chapter 5.
Okay, my apologies.
Okay, that's fine then.
Pretty much each campus makes a chapter, but in this case, they're all combined.
Any other questions for Dr. Calvin?
Not well, one question and just general comment. I think I obviously can see Mr. Osterk's handiwork through this whole thing, and you have a plethora of statistics, information, which could come in handy. Tell you what, if I have this downloaded on my, and I could answer just about any question a community member would pose to me just by searching this document, right? I mean, seems like everything is pretty well covered here. So that's good. I did notice just a little comment in the executive summary that talks about the average age of our student population being significantly lower than other community colleges. And that just kind of struck with me, and what the reason for that might be. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
The demographics change, since that we downloaded and extracted that data, actually, Department of Finance updates that information. So what we do to our fact book, we update that information on an annual basis. So it may have shifted a little bit since we have actually had that data in there. But again, our geography is very unique compared to other parts of the state. So
Yeah, it says that 72% of our student population is 24 or under, as opposed to 60% only statewide. So I guess that would be part of it. I could extrapolate that into being that our FTS being maybe higher than other colleges because younger students would tend to take a full load, right?
I know we do a significant amount of outreach and recruitment at high schools. We do a fair amount other places as well. Our marketing efforts, we try to reach all corners of our district, but we've invested heavily in outreach and support teams at high schools, and provided a number of dual enrollment opportunities to show students and their families in our community that they too belong in college. I'd like to think those efforts have led to maybe a little higher percentage of high school attending or college attending students straight out of high school, but that's kind of it's an educated guess, but it's still somewhat of a guess. Kind of looking at Vice President Morrison, anything to add in that regard?
I think I agree. I think it has to do with our region. Like in the Bay Area and LA, a lot of students maybe they need to change courses for employment or things like that. And here in the Valley, at least here, COS, we spend so much money and time in the high schools. We're at every single feeder high school for the time they're probably juniors. They're hearing from us, and they're case managed by our specialists in the Welcome Center. So they're all assigned 4 to 6 high schools. So I do think that's an educated guess, but I think it has a lot to do with it.
So that, after we approve this tonight, does this then become a public document available to the public? And is there a requirement that this is filed with any oversight agency, chancellor's office, or it's part of our integrated planning model, I guess would be the.
yeah, it's
You're
just
all
part
shape.
of our process. We make it to public, and we also use this as an evidence document for accreditation.
There are no,
Motion for approval?
yes,
So moved that we approve our master plan.
by trustee Sherman. Seconded by trustee Lane. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great job, guys. Everybody.
Great job. Now you see why Dolly was the Giant Award winner for management this year. Nice job, Dolly, and team.
It's
Oh, I know.
not a single person or officer.
Very good. Moving on to board policy, second read, Dr. Calvin.
Thank you, President McEnano. We've got 5 board policies that are here for a second read tonight. 5032, 5040, 5052, 5055, and 5070. We've made a couple of changes that you suggested, President Macareno. Other than that, very similar to what was presented at our last board meeting. Happy to answer any questions or accept a motion to approve.
And if you have one motion to approve them all.
Unless anyone wants to pull one and talk about it. Yeah, sure.
I'm making the motion that we approve all 5 of the board policies.
I'll second Mr. Sherman's motion.
Motion by trustee Sherman, seconded by trustee Nunes. Student trustee Shirk, would you like to make an advisory vote?
I'm on board.
I'm sorry?
I'm on board.
Okay, all right, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Good luck.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Again, everyone, thank you for being here. Always appreciate the feedback, the input. I want to make sure everyone always feels heard, and this is a place that you can give input. And thank you very much for being here. We'll see you guys next time. Meeting adjourned.